Right now, when you're bored, you have thousands of options: a show to stream, a game to load, a group chat to check. For most of human history, none of that existed. No hunting to do, no fire to tend, no food to gather, and still, hours left in the day. So what did people actually do with that time? The answer isn't grim survival. It's something almost nobody expects. Your ancestors were playing games, making music, and cracking jokes tens of thousands of years before any of it was written down. Start with music, because it's older than almost anyone assumes. In 2008, archaeologists working in Hohlefels cave in Germany uncovered a flute carved from a vulture's wing bone, dated to roughly 40,000 years ago. It wasn't crude. It had 5 carefully spaced finger holes and a precisely cut mouthpiece, the kind of craftsmanship that implies the maker wasn't inventing music on the spot. They already knew what a flute should sound like. That single artifact pushes musical instruments back further than agriculture, further than pottery, further than almost anything else we associate with civilization. Whoever carved it wasn't doing it to survive the night. They were doing it because it felt good to make sound. Then there's gambling, which turns out to be almost as old. Archaeologists have recovered astragali, the small ankle bones of sheep and goats, from sites across the ancient Near East and Mediterranean, worn smooth from repeated handling and often marked with symbols on each face. These weren't food waste. They were dice. Long before anyone invented coinage, people were rolling bones to bet on outcomes, resolve disputes, or just kill time between one task and the next. The oldest known board game, Senet, appears in Egyptian tombs dating back over 5,000 years, complete with carved playing pieces and a grid board, and it was popular enough that pharaohs were buried with their favorite sets so they'd have something to do in the afterlife. Toys are where this gets almost uncomfortably relatable. Archaeologists digging at sites across Europe and the Near East have found small clay and stone objects shaped unmistakably like spinning tops, some estimated to be several thousand years old, alongside miniature carved animal figures too small and too fragile to have served any practical purpose. The leading interpretation isn't ceremonial. It's that children needed something to do, and adults made it for them. The same instinct that puts a stuffed animal in a crib today. Storytelling, meanwhile, may be the oldest form of entertainment of all, and one anthropologist actually managed to measure it. In 2014, Polly Wiesner published a study recording nighttime conversations among the Jew/Hoansi Bushmen of the Kalahari, one of the last populations living something close to the ancestral hunter-gatherer lifestyle. During the day, conversation was almost entirely practical, but once the fire was lit at night, the vast majority of talk shifted to stories, myths, and jokes that pulled the whole camp into laughter. Wiesner's argument was blunt. Firelight conversation is where human culture actually began, and it happened purely for entertainment, with no practical output at all. And that's before you even get to humor itself. Archaeologists studying figurines from multiple Ice Age sites have identified pieces that seem deliberately exaggerated or absurd, wildly oversized features, impossible anatomy, comically distorted proportions, in ways that look less like religious symbolism and more like an ancient inside joke. Some researchers now openly argue that a portion of what we've spent a century interpreting as sacred fertility symbols may simply have been prehistoric humor, carved by someone who thought it was funny and wanted their friends to laugh too. Dance shows up just as early, and possibly earlier than any of this, because, unlike flutes or dice, dance leaves almost no physical trace at all. Researchers instead look at indirect evidence: worn depressions in cave floors consistent with rhythmic, repetitive movement, and cave paintings across multiple continents depicting groups of figures in synchronized poses that look distinctly choreographed rather than random. Some anthropologists argue dance may actually predate music entirely, since rhythm can be created with nothing but hands, feet, and a group willing to move together. Here's what ties all of this together, and it's a genuinely strange thought once you sit with it. None of these activities did anything to keep anyone alive. A flute doesn't feed you, a game of Senet doesn't build a shelter, a joke carved into a figurine doesn't protect you from a predator. And yet every single one of these things survived, generation after generation, well enough to leave physical evidence tens of thousands of years later. Some researchers argue this wasn't wasted time at all, that play and humor and music actually strengthened group bonds, built trust, and made cooperation easier, the same quiet social glue that team sports and inside jokes still provide today. Fun, in other words, may have been doing real evolutionary work the whole time, just not the kind you can see in a fossil record of tools and weapons. So the next time you're bored on a couch, waiting for something to load, remember that boredom itself is ancient. Someone 40,000 years ago sat by a fire, picked up a hollow bone, and decided to see what sound it would make. Someone else carved a die out of an ankle bone because they wanted better odds at a game. And somewhere, around a fire that's long since gone cold, someone made a joke so good that it got carved into stone, just so the people who came after would laugh too.